I'm Ellen Frost. I'm the owner of Local Color Flowers. We're a floral design studio in Baltimore, Maryland, and we source all of our flowers locally, so everything we use come from farms within 100 miles of Baltimore. And today I'm going to do a demo of a large urn vase. And let me just quick say, if you haven't signed up for our newsletter yet, we have 2 signups here, and if you sign up today, we'll be giving away at the end of the demo a t-shirt for anybody who signs up. So if you want to sign up, you can do that. And since we're just like a small fun group, just ask any questions as we go. All right, so I've got a 12-inch urn. I'm going to use, we use all sustainable mechanics in our shop, so no floral foam. This is the Holly Chapel egg, and you can just use, chicken wire from Tractor Supply if you want to use that too, but these just happen to fit perfectly on top of this vase, and I had them in the shop, so I was like, I'll just use those. I am going to tape it in. This is just some waterproof tape that you can get at like the craft store or at your wholesaler. I'm going to tape it in just because some of these stems I'm going to use are sort of bigger and I don't want anything to move around. So I'm just going to tape these in. You can cover up the tape afterwards. Just make sure it's taped in there. Taped in there well. Nope. And you want to make sure that your vase is really dry when you do this taping, because if the vase is wet, it really will not stick that well. So you want to just make sure your vase is nice and dry. Put one more piece in. And all of the flowers we're using today came from the Gardener's Workshop farm. So Lisa and her team harvested all of this stuff for us the last few days, which was really lovely and nice of them. All right, so that's pretty secure. And I am using a Lazy Susan. I don't generally use a Lazy Susan for designs, just for smaller things, but for these bigger pieces, it does make it a little bit easier, especially if you're making an urn that's going to be seen on all sides. So I'm always thinking when I make something, is it going to be front facing or people are going to see it all around? So I'm going to use that for that. And I started to pull some flowers and some foliage here. So I always start my designs with foliage. This is just some mint, apple mint, I think, from Lisa's farm. And as I do with all designs, I'm just going to start by putting all of my stems in sort of at an angle. And there's no real trick at this point. I'm basically just trying to create a shape and cover my mechanics. So I'm not thinking like I have to be perfect putting these in. I'm just trying to fill it in a little bit. And the foliage is really going to help create the shape. So if you want something that is really like round, you can start to use the foliage for that. And if you want something that's more asymmetrical or something that's a little bit more wild, you can use the foliage to help with that. So just sticking those in. So I've stuck some around in a circle, sort of at an angle, and then I'm putting a couple just right here in the middle so that we have some coverage in there. And I'm always, whenever you're doing design, I always still give my stems a nice cut before I put them in. Even if you just harvested them, I always still do clip the ends before I put them in. And make sure that your stems are nice and clean when you put them in so that there's no foliage inside the vase. You really don't want to have any leaves inside the water because that's just going to make your water dirty and it'll make your flowers not last as long. So Lisa also cut a little bit of Solomon seal, which is my absolute all-time 100% favorite foliage. I also like it because it's easy to grow, and I'm not good at growing things, so I can even grow Solomon seal. This time of year is a perfect time to use it because it's really hardened off. When it blooms in the spring and it has the little white flowers on it, that's really too early to harvest it. You really don't want to use it at that point, even though it really looks cute then, because it will wilt. So if you let the flowers sort of wilt and fall off and then let the foliage sort of harden off a little bit, that's really, I think, the best time. And you can see that I'm putting stuff in sort of at different heights because whenever we're designing, not as much for a big piece like this, but certainly for a small piece, we're sort of looking at it from the top down. And so what I'm seeing is like right here, but what you're seeing is right here. So I want to make sure that anytime somebody's like sitting at a table that I made an arrangement, that what they're looking at has some nice foliage and some nice flowers at that eye level. Try to clean up I'm a very messy designer in my own studio, so I try not to be as messy here.
Ellen, is it true that Solomon seal is edible?
Yes, it is, Eric. Thank you for asking that. Solomon seal is edible. The flowers are edible. It's if you saw a couple weeks ago, there was an article in the New York Times about edible perennials, and actually Solomon seal was a favorite of the writer of that article. So yeah, Solomon seal flowers are edible. And I have not tasted them because I read the article after they were already dead for the season, but they said they're really sweet. So I'm excited to try those out. All right, so I'm just gonna, start with this. The next thing I'm gonna put in, I usually go next to like line flowers because line flowers also help me with the shape. And so let me just separate some of these. This is, who can tell me what this is? Bee balm, some kind of monarda? Yeah. We use this not as often as we use it, but we don't have it a lot. So that's why when I saw it, I was like, I think this is monarda. It does have like a really herby scent to it, which I like. And you can see I'm just starting to fill in the shape of this. Anybody else have questions besides Eric, who I feel like was a plant?
We're just soaking it in, Ella.
Soak it in. Just fill this in a little bit. So for line flowers, I always try to let my line flowers like do what they do naturally, right? Which is sort of stick out a little bit, like use that line as, like don't hide the line in your arrangement, really let these be a line flower in the design. Just gonna put a few more of those in. So this size arrangement is a really good size we've found for things like, let's see, like something on a pedestal at a wedding, or on like an altar table, or even at like an entry table for a wedding, or in like, a fancy person's fancy entryway at their house. This is a good size. So this is not something that you would sit on the ground. It's not big enough for that, but it's big enough to sit on a pedestal. This size is the size we use a lot for like wedding ceremony pieces. All right, so we'll sort of leave it at that for now. All right, the next thing I'm going to put in are some Lisianthus. I was very excited to see the Lisianthus at Lisa's because our Lisianthus is not yet ready, so I was excited to see that. So, excuse me. Usually when I'm putting things in an arrangement, I want to make sure that the stem where I'm putting it in the vase is a single stem. So this is a V, but as long as the V is outside of the vase, then I feel okay about it. And the reason that is because if the V is inside of the vase, often what happens is I'm crisscrossing like this. But I sometimes make mistakes, or a lot of times I make mistakes, or I don't like where something's placed, and I'll try to pull that out and everything will come out with it. So if you can, get it so that whatever is in the vase is just a single clean stem. And if you can't, then you might have to make a longer clean stem, which always feels bad. But, those will be for the short vases later. So I'm just cleaning all of these leaves off and then putting them in. Is anybody growing Lisianthus? Yeah. Are you growing any of those new ones, like the vintagey color ones?
I did it. I stuck with the rose and the creams and white.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the vintagey.
Yeah, those are definitely like the classic the classic colors. And for years, you know, I'm located in Baltimore, and for years we did not have roses grown locally. So Lisianthus, when they came available, like, you know, when it was Lisianthus season, that was like our one time to really have a rose-like flower. And honestly, a lot of people didn't even know that they weren't roses. So we do have a rose grower in Baltimore now. So we do sometimes have local roses. But Lisianthus, there's just no, I mean, they're so perfect. The only problem with Lisianthus is that they come on in like our slowest time of year. So Lisianthus for us starts like mid-July. And that is really when, I was just saying, even our shop is like dead that time of year. So we try to have like a little promotion for Lisianthus to try to get more people to come and buy it because it's so good. But it does unfortunately come just at a bad time. We do get a second flush of Lisianthus in our region in the fall, which is great for fall weddings, but they are shorter and usually not as robust as the first harvest. All right, so got some Lisianthus in there. So usually when I'm making arrangements, I'm thinking about them on all sides, unless the client tells me that they're not, like unless I know specifically that it's for a front-facing arrangement. Otherwise, I'm always thinking about it as a round arrangement. I'm gonna add some of these creamy Lisianthus too, because they're so pretty. And they're so bushy, and I know people harvest Lisianthus differently. Like everybody has sort of a different way to harvest. These are harvested pretty bushy, but we have had growers who harvest more of like single stem, and I'm using them sort of as a cluster. If I was using this in a bridal bouquet, I would probably take it down to, I don't know, maybe half of the size of this. We really don't use them as like a bouquet of flowers in a bridal bouquet, but for an arrangement like this, it's great because it really takes up a lot of room. And these stems are nice and long, so.
So when you receive them, are they that bloom?
They usually come, they wouldn't be this open. So usually there's like one or two that are open and the rest are sort of closed. And I will say that it really depends on the type of customer you're selling to, because for an event florist, I would love it if they came this open. I would want them to be more open because I'm ready to use them like this rather than half the stems are in bud and I have to just rip those off and put them in the compost and then use the full bloomed ones. So I would prefer. That really is a matter of like communication between the farmer and the florist. So if the farmer doesn't ask and the florist doesn't tell, then you just might get them any flower, not just Lisianthus, at a stage which is not ideal for you. Like we had a situation with a new grower a couple of years ago. We ordered peonies from her and she delivered like on a Wednesday and we were going to use them for a wedding on Saturday. And there was no discussion about anything. I just ordered them. My assumption, again, was that they were going to be marshmallow stage. You know, that is the proper harvest stage. That's what I think we're getting. So, you know, they were like rock hard. And, you know, we did all the things, you know, put plastic bags over them, put them in hot water, put them in the, you know, nothing. I mean, it was probably 10 days before they opened. So I had to have a conversation with her to say, like, the expectation for a florist is that, like, you're going to use them in a couple days. They can't be, you know, you have to really harvest them at the right stage. If I was like, oh, I'm going to order these today and I want to use them today, then I probably would have said to her, you could send some more open ones because I'm going to use them today. But a lot of that is just communication, and it's, I think, on the farmer and the florist to sort of have that good communication. Yeah, I love them like this. I mean, they're really pretty open like this. All right, so let's see what else I got. I'm going to use some Cosmos. These are, I don't know what variety these are. They're really pretty. We use Cosmos a lot for event work. We don't use them a ton for our regular everyday client work. partly because I just worry. I'm really paranoid about wilting, like super duper paranoid about sending daily deliveries out that wilt. So I'm just really cautious about using things that have maybe a more confirmed long vase life. And cosmos, at least for us in the summer, it's really hot and I just get worried about them. But for weddings and for events, they can't be beat because they're just so fun and they have such whimsy and people really love them. Any other questions while I'm just sticking a lot of cosmos in? Thank you. And a lot of the, there's so many new varieties of cosmos, besides sort of the standard like white and pink. I know this past week we used the apricota one, and it was just so pretty. We've also used, is there like a lemonade one, like that light yellow? That one is really great. Customers really love them, for weddings. Yeah, they're really pretty. Let me just put a couple more of these in. And then I am going to put in some zinnias. Lisa's zinnias are looking so pretty right now. And I'm sure all of you follow Lisa closely. Her and I did a podcast last year about my like-hate relationship with zinnias. I do like zinnias. I know after I said last year that I didn't like zinnias, I was flooded with emails from people saying, oh my God, you don't like zinnias. I do like zinnias. But like I said, I'm paranoid about wilting. And with zinnia meltdown, we have a lot of zinnia meltdown in our area. I'm just always worried about sending them out to customers and then like the next day them melting down. So, but they are really pretty, and we have a couple growers who we have done a lot of tests with that have had no real problem with meltdown. So we've tried to concentrate our sort of use of them with those growers that we know don't have meltdown as much as others. So zinnia meltdown is a problem with zinnias where I know a farmer would probably be able to describe it better. So basically, they turn black and like mushy and wilty very quickly, like within a day. And there are there's been a lot of studies about why it happens, but there's no real clear answer to why it happens. And with that, no real clear understanding on how to stop it. And so we have some farms, and so then it's a matter of, is there something in the soil? Is it, something about the makeup of that soil, is that what's causing it? Because we have some farmers where zinnias come into us and within like less than a day, they have melted down. And we have others where we get them and they stay great looking in a vase for 10 days. There's just, for a florist, because I can't predict which will work, I often shy away from them because I'm scared.
It's something that occurs only after they're cut.
After they're cut, yes, after they're harvested. And there's a lot of other, factors that people, think maybe play into it, because zinnias don't like being in the cooler. So does putting them in the cooler affect meltdown? For florists, it's very difficult not to put flowers in the cooler. We're making arrangements for a wedding 3 days later. We can't not put them in the cooler. So that's what I mean. They're like unpredictable to me, and I like predictability, if that makes sense. But these are super beautiful, and they're a perfect focal flower for this time of year, especially like before dahlias come on. Like our dahlias are just starting to come on in Baltimore, so zinnias are a good. I'm gonna just put in a few of these rudbeckia. I think this is the chimney. I like it because the petals, again, this is like, rudbeckia is another unpredictable flower for me. Sometimes they feel like they wilt very easily, but this variety seems to do a little bit better for us. And I love, I'll use that one too. But I like how the petals are sort of those spoon petals where they're like curled in on each other. I think it hides wilting a little bit. And I like this color that's a little bit more muted, not that like bright. I mean, I like bright yellow, but I like that like muted sort of rustier yellow.
Could it be that you could put the whole thing in the cooler but maybe add those few flowers right before?
Absolutely, and we have done that. The problem, it's super easy to do if you're just doing like a single order. You could just do that for, on the day that you're sending it out. The issue for us is if you're doing 30 of these for a wedding, you can't wait until the day of the wedding to put them in. There's just not enough time. So certainly for small stuff you could. Definitely. All right, any other questions? I'm just going to pop a few more of these in. Yeah, the rudbeckia is really cute. I like that little touch of yellow. And if I were going to finish it off with anything else, I might add a little bit of, I can just do it. If you're not in a hurry. Lisa cut all of this like funny foliage, like random stuff from the farm. And there is a little bit of sweet pea, which I feel like is pretty sort of on the edges. So just adding a little bit more movement on the edge of the vase. I'm always thinking about this space right here, like how the flowers and the edge of the vase interact. I don't love it when it feels like a very hard like connection where it's just like vase and then stems. So I'm always trying to, my staff will tell you, I'm always saying soften the edge, put something in there to soften the edge. So I like to have something on the edge that gives it a little more, just that little piece I think really does change the, see what Lisa just gave me here.
From a non-florist perspective.
Yeah.
From a flower
Yes.
perspective.
Yep.
What's a good resource for trying to get some basics down?
Yeah. So a couple of things I'll say. One, we have a lot of YouTube videos that have really basic design instruction, and we continue to make those. We put those out every week. So that's a free resource. You can just find us on YouTube at Ellen Frost Flowers. Additionally, I'm just going to say it. We're starting an online community that is going to be focused a lot on hobbyist design, non-professional design, people that may want to be designers but aren't yet, or just people who like design, where we'll be doing some instruction but also some sort of group design work, design challenges, things like that, so that people can start to get more comfortable with design. So that'll be coming at the end of the summer. And then if you're looking for some specific things, like bridal bouquet design, there's a woman, her name is Nicole Balsters, and she's the Floral coach online. And she has a great bridal bouquet class called Bouquet Boot Camp, which I think is the best bridal bouquet online class. And then if you're looking for something in person, always look at, farmers and designers in your area for, local stuff that people might be offering.
To be clear, I'm not really wanting to be a florist.
Oh, no.
Just to more understand
Totally.
the market for a farmer.
Absolutely. I would say that I am a really big proponent of florists understanding the role and the job of the farmer and how flowers are grown, and vice versa, having the farmers understand how florists use the flowers, what goes into creating those designs, because I think it helps us both better understand the other person. And honestly, because our business depends so much on our relationship with farmers, that sort of understanding, like we have with a lot of our designers that work at the shop are either also working at farms or are farmers themselves. So we have that crossover. But we also have lots of farmers in our area that will send new staff to us to work for a week so that they can understand like sort of the whole process of working in a shop. So there's that too.
Does your course go into you have a course, right, on selling?
We have 2 courses with the Gardener's Workshop. The first one is called Preparing to Sell to Florists. That's a short class for farmers that are trying to sell to florists. And that goes into a little bit about sort of building the relationship with the florist. So what's the best way to approach them, when to approach them, what information do you want to share with them, things like that. And then we have the sort of flip side of that, which is the Growing Your Business with Local Flower Sourcing class. And that's a bigger class, and that really goes deep into the relationship building between the farmer and the florist and how both sides sort of can do that. Yep, so both of those are good. Thank you for mentioning those. All right, so I'm going to say done for now. If you have any questions, feel free to come up, and if you want to sign up for the newsletter, I'll give you a minute to do that before I pick a winner for a t-shirt if anybody wants to enter. The newsletter is great. It comes out once a week on Thursdays. It's full of flower information and fun stories and farmer stuff and all kinds of fun things. So check it out. There's sign-up sheets here, and thanks so much.
Thank you, Ellen.